In this video, we will be talking about Lago Vista, Texas, which is known to many as the hidden gem of the greater Austin area. We're going to be talking about everything you need to know about it before potentially relocating there. So if that's the reason you clicked on the video, stay tuned because we're getting after it right now. Hello again, everybody. If this is your first time to the channel, my name is Frank and I'm part of a team of agents at the award-winning J.B. Goodwin Brokerage located right here in the fabulous Austin, Texas. Each and every week we put out tons of new content, all in regards to living in Austin, Texas, the good and the bad. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and ringing that little bell so that you're notified each and every time we put out a new video. In addition to that, we love the reach outs we get all the time from people just like you who are in need of our help when relocating to this great city of Austin, Texas. We love learning about your lifestyle and placing you in that perfect spot, making your move as smooth as possible. But the only way we can do that is, again, by you reaching out to us. So do not hesitate. Whether you're 9 days away or 90, go ahead and shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. With that out of the way, yes, let's talk about Lago Vista, Texas. And what's interesting about it is you probably have never heard of it before. And if you have, it's probably due to the homework you're doing or the extensive research you're doing when planning your move to the greater Austin area. And the reason why is because it's not really going to be staring you in the face. It's not going to be a Leander. It's not going to be Round Rock. It's not going to be downtown. It's not even going to be the Westlake Hills, which have quite a reputation. It's not even going to be Lakeway for that matter either. It's essentially a small lake town, Lago Vista is, with a population of just shy of around 7,000 people. And while we're going to be diving into everything we feel you should know about Lago Vista before you potentially relocate there, truth of the matter is, I am not sure this is going to be one of our longer videos because it's really not going to have an abundance of things to talk about, but we'll do our best, so let's get to it. For starters, let us begin with the location of Lago Vista and the commutes in relation to perhaps either downtown or the tech corridor. For reference, if you're going to be looking at the map, Lago Vista is going to be northwest of downtown Austin. It's going to be pretty much directly west of Cedar Park or South Leander, or if you are in the heart of Leander or potentially anywhere north in Leander, it's going to be southwest of that area as well. One of the common assumptions we get from our clients is that, let's say they're wanting something lakeside or perhaps near water, but they don't have the outrageous budgets to live, say, in Lakeway or the Westlake Hills, which are just those prime luxury real estate locations within the greater Austin area. Something a lot of people don't know is that Lago Vista is a relatively more affordable option, which is on the opposite side of Lake Travis. So yes, by nature, Lago Vista is going to be a little bit under the radar, and yes, as I mentioned, a bit of a smaller town. So if you're going to be relocating to the greater Austin area and you're not going to be working from home, which I realize is becoming much more frequent and common ever since COVID happened, but if you are going to be making a commute, whether it's going to be for Google, for Facebook, for Dell, for Apple, for Tesla, or you're going to be working perhaps in business, maybe downtown in the heart of Austin, this is going to be a downside to Lago Vista. You're not necessarily within arm's reach of any major employers. To give you an idea, depending on traffic, if you are going to be commuting downtown from Lago Vista, on average, you're looking at around 45 minutes to an hour of travel. Or let's say you are relocating perhaps to a job in tech, maybe near Apple, maybe near the Domain in North Austin, then your commute is going to be looking closer to about a half hour, perhaps maybe closer to 40 minutes if traffic is a headache. So while I realize these aren't horrific numbers, let's say you're coming from Manhattan or maybe San Francisco and you're used to a commute of an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours just to get to work and another 2 hours to get back to work, this is going to be a breath of fresh air for you. But I realize I'm not talking to all people who have to commute like that. A lot of people might have the luxury of riding their bike to work. Maybe it's just a 5-minute drive to work. Maybe they can even walk to work. So I like to give that heads up. You take the good with the bad. If you're going to be living in a lovely place like Lago Vista, regardless of where you work, it's going to be at minimum probably 30 to 40 minutes. Moving right along, we're going to talk about the subject of schools. And I always mention school districts if I can, if they're relevant to my videos, because truth of the matter is a majority majority of the clients that we help, or a majority of the people who even reach out to us, are doing so either already with a family, or they're perhaps newly married and they're thinking ahead in regards to the future of their children. So if that applies to you, let me break it down. Assuming you've been doing your homework, naturally you're going to see two major districts pop up in the greater Austin area, one of which is going to be the Round Rock Independent School District, the other is going to be the Leander Independent School District. These two monstrous, well-respected districts each are going to serve between 30 and 40,000 students for a combined total of probably around 80,000. They both maintain superb graduation rates. They both maintain superb ACT and SAT test scores. Both of them are always popping out new schools. Both of them are always building brand new football stadiums or auditoriums. So these are the cream of the crop. However, of course, in the greater Austin area, that's not all there is. It's just that those two are the major ones, obviously aside from the Austin Independent School District, but that's more central, downtown. Then you've got the smaller ones, Manor Independent School District, Hutto, Liberty Hill, and in this case, yes, Lago Vista School District. Now, just because it is a smaller district does not mean it doesn't have much to offer. What's cool about it is that niche.com, which I like to use as a metric, I don't really use it necessarily as gospel, but they do a good enough objective job of grading these schools, ironically. And while other small school districts in the greater Austin area might get a letter grade of a B- or a C+ or a B+ for that matter, Lago Vista is actually going to get an A-, which makes it quite respectable in spite of its size. Now, obviously, when it comes to the well-being of your children, I would absolutely encourage you to look perhaps more diligently into the various schools, more specifically speaking, which ones you might want your children to go to. But for the sake of this video, I just like to paint more of a broad, general picture just to give you an idea. Next, we're going to talk about the things to do in Lago Vista, Texas. And, it would be very easy for me to say there just isn't that much to do, but I'm going to do my best to at least bring up a few examples and paint you guys a clear enough picture. So, for starters, Lago Vista is a lake town. I mean, if you're imagining, say, California, maybe south of LA, south of Orange County, you've got a place like San Juan Capistrano or Dana Point or San Clemente. These are beach towns, or even similar in, say, Colorado or Utah, there's mountain towns. So Lago Vista is just that. I mean, it even translates to Lakeview. So it really is a place small in population where people really have their lives centered around the lake, at least most of the time. So while there are things to do in Lago Vista, a majority of them are going to be things pertaining to the lake and everything that the lifestyle invites. So for example, it would be easy for me to say, well, in Lago Vista, you've got no nightlife. It's not North Austin where the Domain is. It's not downtown Austin where you've got 6th Street or Rainy Street. It's not even, say, Round Rock, which is a suburb, but it has its own little downtown with bars and shops. So I could easily say you don't have any of that in Lago Vista, but the thing is, because it's lake living, if you've got a boat, which a lot of people in Lago Vista have, you can take the boat to one of these bars or clubs or restaurants that are on the edge of the lake with the lake views. So it's not uncommon if you live in Lago Vista, go to the lake, get on your boat, and go to the Oasis, which is a staple of Austin, Texas, for some food, for some dancing. They have a couple bars in there. Or if you simply just want to bring a cooler on your boat, or maybe drag some jet skis, or have a beer, or maybe go tubing, that kind of thing is what people like to do. Austin, unfortunately, is not really close to any beaches, the closest one being probably around 4 hours away, and it's not even that great of a beach. So what we do is we go to the lake. In addition to that, something I'll mention about Lago Vista is that it does have a lot of land which is ripe for hunting. I've heard that there are a lot of deer throughout Lago Vista. And I would get more specific about the terrain and what kinds of animals and the best times and the places to do it, but I'm not going to BS you. I'm not really a guy who goes hunting. I'm not having any prejudices against it. It's just never been my type of thing. So if you are curious about that, we could absolutely look into it for you, but I'm not going to be the best resource for anything of that matter. Another thing people like to do in Lago Vista is play golf, if that tells you anything about the demographic and what the vibe is there. In Lago Vista, you're going to have two major golf courses, both of which are going to be beautiful, but Another thing I noticed in the time I've spent there is even if you're not going to be golfing, you're still going to see families driving around the roads of Lago Vista in their golf carts, which I'm guessing they have at home, which I personally envy. I've always wanted to have a golf cart just for the sake of having a golf cart. And in your shoes, I'd imagine it can be quite a breath of fresh air, literally, to give your children rides to school in your golf cart and then back home. So all of that aside, in addition to perhaps beautiful Milky Way nighttime skies or having a private airport, there just isn't a ton to do in Lago Vista. You're pretty much far from everything. I think even your nearest H-E-B, which is a grocery store staple of Texas, but by the way, you'll come to love that when you move here, but even your closest H-E-B, to my knowledge, is maybe 14, 15, or 16 miles away from the heart of Lago Vista. Now, obviously, you'll have smaller stores like a Walgreens or a general store, something independently owned, but in terms of the H-E-Bs, in terms of the Walmarts, in terms of the IKEAs, in terms of the shopping centers, it's just, I mean, you can drive to that stuff, but my point is you've got to leave Lago Vista for a majority of it. It's not going to be like a Round Rock, which has the largest indoor water park in the country. It's not going to have Dell Diamond for baseball or for shows. You know what I mean? You are far from everything, but it is subjective, because maybe one of the reasons you'd like to live in Lago Vista is for the peaceful paradise, is for the quietness, is for a retreat from anything that could potentially disrupt your peace. So you take the good with the bad, but ultimately that is what you can expect. Now, before we move on to the affordability and the politics of Lago Vista, Texas, go ahead and let us know if you have any agreements, disagreements, or questions for us. Drop them all down below in the comments for us to get involved in. In addition to that, if we've been providing any value for you thus far in this video, we ask that you give it a like, as it really helps our channel grow and tells us that we're doing a good enough job. Remember to subscribe, and lastly, if there's anyone in your life who's wanting to learn more about Austin, Texas, go ahead and share our content with them and spread the good word. Now let's move right along to the affordability, the pricing, what you can expect in Lago Vista, Texas, and this one is a bit interesting. What I'll say is that your median home price in Lago Vista is going to be right around the mid to low 400s. The lowest you can find probably going to be in the 300s, all the way up well into the millions if you're looking at perhaps a mansion facing the lake. And because of the very expensive options you have in Lago Vista, your average, not the median, but your average price is going to be looking closer to the mid 700 range. So we find that those prime real estate options kind of skew the numbers, kind of skew the averages because of the wealth you can find there. But what I've always liked about Lago Vista is that it ranges very well in terms of all kinds of budgets, which is something that perhaps Lakeway or the Westlake Hills can't really claim to do, at least do quite as well. Another interesting thing about Lago Vista that I've noticed is that it is a prime place of interest for investors. What a lot of people like to do is buy land, either to build their own custom home on or sit on the land as an investment as it appraises, as people flock here from all over the country, watch it grow, and then sell it to whoever wants to buy it, making a hefty profit. It was last year, I believe early 2020, I think it was right before COVID really started happening, you know what I mean, where one of my clients closed on a lot on Lago Vista, literally on the water. I went out there to visit it. I didn't get in the water, it was a bit cold at the time, but it was gorgeous, and we closed that at around $90,000 just for the land. And now he's free to do with it what he wants. He can either build a nice home facing the water, buy some boats, or he can sit on it as an investment. But otherwise, yes, Lago Vista is going to be a place that is mostly residential. You're not even going to see that many renters out there. In my experience, it's either where a lot of people might go to retire, or a lot of people want to go for that quiet family life and have their children living near the water, going to good schools as well. Lastly, on the subject of affordability, I would be remiss if I did not mention the property taxes, which is something I talk about in most, if not all, of my videos. I just don't want it to blindside anyone, you know what I mean? A lot of people here, they have their numbers in order, they're working with their lender. It's already a stressful, overwhelming, exciting, and expensive decision to move anywhere, especially out of state. So I like to bring up the property taxes because I have heard of people just getting shocked at the last minute, not really accounting for that, how much they'll have to pay each and every year. So the thing about Lago Vista is that their property tax rate is right around 2.5%, which in my experience doing real estate in Austin is a little bit of a breath of fresh air, but I realize if you're watching this and your property tax rate is 0.5%, 1%, or even 1.5%, that's going to seem pretty steep. And the thing is, the state of Texas, there's no state income tax. So you combine that with the affordability, Texas has to make its money somewhere, and that somewhere is the property taxes. And the reason I think that 2.5 in Lago Vista is fair is because when you look at places like Leander, maybe in a brand new build community, that could easily be 3.02% on the property taxes, or even say Georgetown or Round Rock or Cedar Park, you might be looking at 2.75, 2.8. And yes, you can find it lower. For example, Liberty Hill, that's going to be right around 1.9 or 2%. But the truth of the matter is, if you're looking in Texas, or more specifically in Austin, you can expect property tax rates to be on average between 2.5 and 3%. So this is on the lower end of that average. Lastly, we're going to talk about the politics of Lago Vista, Texas. Not to worry, not in a preachy way, not in an opinionated way, just as a matter of fact way, so that you can know what to expect. Truth of the matter is, Lago Vista, Texas is going to lean more conservative. It's not going to be like a downtown Austin, which is very progressive, which is very trendy, which is very youthful, which is very liberal, very artistic, eclectic, all the synonyms, right? It's going to be much more old-fashioned. It's going to be quiet. It's going to be small. And as mentioned, it's going to have a certain number of people who retire there. And of course, yes, the suburban family life. So you're not going to have perhaps an overwhelming amount of diversity, or perhaps necessarily even culture, the way you would in a more urban setting. And I'm not saying which side of the political fence is right or wrong, nor do I know which side of the fence you might reside on if you're not maybe more of a centrist or even apolitical, but that is what you can expect. And it might be what you want. We get calls a lot of the time from people in these blue states, and they're desperately wanting to move to a red state. Or we often get calls from people perhaps in a blue state who want to, yes, move to a red state, but they want to move to a very blue part, Austin, of a red state, which is Texas. So depending on who you are, Lago Vista could be a great fit for you, or it might not be such a great fit. What I can say, however, is that it's not like you're going to Hicktown. You're not going to see gigantic pickup trucks with Confederate flags. It's not that brand or extremity of conservatism. It's just going to lean more that way. And truth of the matter is, I say lean because it is going to be relatively balanced. A good number of people who reside in Lago Vista have come from California, have come from Oregon, have come from New York City. So it's not just going to be only Texans who've lived in Texas and the rural areas of Texas for years upon years. No, you're going to have some sort of balance, but in terms of the climate, in terms of the perhaps majority, it's going to lean to the right. So yeah, Lago Vista is potentially a great place to live if you like outdoors, if you like hiking, if you like cycling, if you like hunting, if you like the lake, if you want to go tubing, if you want to go jet skiing, or maybe politically if you're not into the mask mandates or the vaccine passports, or if you just want to prioritize peace and quiet or have your children go to great schools. And in addition to all of that, a relatively flexible range of budget options as well when compared to the Westlake Hills. But maybe you're not an outdoorsy person, or maybe you lean politically left and you take it more seriously, or maybe you want to partake in museums, maybe you want to be closer to music venues, maybe you want to be able to shop more easily, maybe you don't want to drive 20 minutes to the nearest HEB, or maybe you don't want to have to commute 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, or an hour to your job. So what I'm getting at is that depending on who you are and what walk of life you come from, it could either be a great idea or it could be a not so great idea. But that is what we pride ourselves in doing. We like getting to know you, learning what your preferences are, and where that right place in the greater Austin area is to put you and make your move as smooth as possible. But the only way we could do that is, again, by you reaching out to us. So do not hesitate. Whether you're 9 days away or 90, go ahead and shoot us that text, send us that email, give us that call any day of the week. any time of day. We've got your back when moving to the lovely Austin, Texas. And as mentioned, each and every week we do put out tons of new content all in regards to living in Austin, Texas, the good and the bad. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel for more and ringing that little bell so that you're notified each and every time we put out a new video. Comment down below with any agreements, disagreements, questions, or video ideas for us to get involved with. Consider liking the video as well if we've given you any value to tell us that we've done a good job and help the channel grow. And lastly, if there's anyone in your life who you know is contemplating a move to Austin, Texas and would like to learn more, go ahead and share our content with them and spread the good word. Until next time, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas, and we will absolutely catch you later.